They earn more than their parents ever did. They own more than they ever expected. They've done everything they were told to do. The house, the super, the kids in school, the 5-year plan quietly ticked off, line by line. And yet, every month feels like a negotiation they didn't agree to enter. Australia is one of the wealthiest nations on Earth, top 5 globally for household wealth. And its middle class, the people who did everything right, have never felt more financially terrified. That's not an exaggeration. That's not catastrophizing. That is a contradiction worth sitting with, because the question isn't whether they're failing. Most of them aren't. The question is, why does doing everything right feel like falling behind? Combined income, $160,000 a year. Mortgage, 2 kids, super contributions, no holidays booked. The budget, if you run it carefully, technically works. That sounds comfortable? It no longer feels that way. And here's what makes it stranger. This isn't one family. This is thousands of conversations happening in kitchens across every suburb in the country, on Reddit threads at midnight, in text messages between friends who are too proud to say it directly. We're doing everything we were told to do, so why does it feel like this? The benchmarks Australians are measuring themselves against: own a home by 30, comfortable savings by 40, retire with dignity by 65. Those benchmarks were built for a different economy. An economy that no longer exists. The rules haven't changed. The game has. The mortgage was supposed to be the foundation, the thing that meant you'd made it, that you were building something solid, something generational. But something shifted, quietly, without announcement. Every rate rise since 2022 arrived not as a crisis, but as a quiet emergency. The kind that doesn't make news because it happens to people who are coping. $300 more per month. Then another $100. Absorbed into the budget without drama, without anyone to call about it. Refinancing becomes background noise. You live inside the anxiety so long it starts to feel like personality. Then comes the salary illusion, and this one is harder to see. Wages grew. That part is technically true, but purchasing power didn't follow. The pay rise felt real for about 4 months. Then groceries went up. Electricity, insurance, registration, the school levy nobody budgeted for, and suddenly the raise is invisible, not spent on anything indulgent, just absorbed by the ordinary cost of ordinary life, getting quietly, relentlessly more expensive. Then there's the part nobody wants to call a trap, because from the inside, it doesn't look like one. Private school fees, 3 streaming subscriptions, meals out on weekends. Not every week, just sometimes, just to feel normal. None of it feels excessive. None of it is excessive. And all of it adds up to a life that costs considerably more than it appears from the outside, where everyone else is looking. And this is the part that does the most silent damage. Everyone else appears to be managing better. The Instagram feed, the school pickup, the colleague who just renovated, the neighbor who just flew to Japan. Nobody posts about the credit card. Nobody mentions the equity redraw. Nobody says the renovation felt like a mistake by March. The gap between what people show and what people feel is vast. And most people are living in that gap alone. When the conversation gets to this point, it almost always does the same thing. It reaches for individual explanations. Too much spending, not enough discipline, should have bought in 2015, should have locked in the rate. Should have. Here is what that framing quietly erases. The system, built around homeownership as wealth creation, superannuation as retirement security, 2 incomes as stability, was designed in an era when a single income could buy a house, raise a family, and retire with reasonable dignity. That era ended. Nobody officially announced it. There was no press conference, no policy reversal, no moment you could locate on a calendar. It just quietly stopped being true while the advice kept coming as though it hadn't. And so for years, an entire generation absorbed the message. Through financial media, through political language, through self-help content dressed as economic commentary, that the problem was them. Their choices, their discipline, their avocado toast, and their lack of sacrifice. Not the system, never the system. The system is fine, you are the variable. People believe it, not because they're naive, because blaming yourself is more bearable than confronting something too large to fix. Individual failure has a solution. Systemic failure has none, and no one to hold accountable. So the shame gets internalized, settled into the body like a low-grade fever that never quite breaks. The shame isn't earned, but it feels exactly like something that is. Run the full numbers, the house, the super, the assets, and something strange happens. The net worth figure looks fine, in some cases, genuinely impressive. So why does it feel like there is never enough? Because there isn't. Not in the form that matters on a Tuesday morning when the rego is due and the school bill arrived and the mortgage repayment clears in 3 days. The wealth is real, it's just inaccessible in every practical sense. Locked inside a house they can't sell, because selling means renting, and the rental market is not kind. Locked in a super fund they won't touch for 25 years, wrapped inside a lifestyle that's genuinely difficult to downsize, because the school, the suburb, the identity that has quietly formed around all of it. The feeling of being broke isn't irrational. It is the correct emotional response to a system that concentrates your wealth in places you can never actually spend. You have a net worth, you just can't eat it. And underneath all of that, something nobody has been given language for. The psychological cost of watching wealth accumulate. Just not for you. Watching the housing market price out your children in real time. Not as an abstract concern, as a fact you watch solidify, year by year, suburb by suburb. Watching the gap between people who got in early and people who didn't widen, not through effort, not through failure, but through birth year, through timing, through luck that has been quietly rebranded as wisdom. And here is the part that cost the most. You cannot say any of this without sounding ungrateful, so you don't say it. Meanwhile, the margin disappears, not in a single moment, but incrementally. Costs up, savings down. The space between income and outgoing narrowing so gradually that by the time you feel it clearly, it's been gone for years. There's a toll inside all of this that no spreadsheet captures. Managing tight finances is cognitive labor. Every grocery run is a calculation dressed up as routine. Every social invitation is a quiet cost-benefit analysis. Every school bill reopens a negotiation you thought was closed. That energy cannot simultaneously go toward building anything. A career, a relationship, a version of yourself that isn't just managing. And eventually, not dramatically, not all at once, the weight of it shows up in sleep. In the arguments that aren't really about what they're about. In the slow, quiet erosion of the feeling that the future is something to look forward to. The system doesn't ask how you're holding up. It just sends the next bill. They're not in crisis. That's important to say. They won't lose the house. The kids will stay in school. The super will keep accumulating. The budget will keep technically working. They'll be fine, probably. But probably fine is not what they were promised. They were promised security. Not wealth, not luxury. Just the quiet, solid feeling that if you worked hard and made sensible choices and did it all in the right order, you would feel okay. They don't feel okay, and that gap between what was promised and what was delivered is where a generation lives. Not in poverty, not in collapse. In the space between expectation and reality, where the distance is just wide enough to be exhausting and just small enough that nobody in power takes it seriously. There is no resolution at the end of this. That's the thing about structural problems. They don't end with the documentary. The mortgage will still be there tomorrow. The super will still be inaccessible. The gap between what was promised and what was built will still be wide enough to fall through, quietly, in the middle of an ordinary week. Maybe the most honest thing, the only honest thing, is this. You are not failing a system that is working. You are succeeding inside a system that was never designed for you to feel okay. They did everything right. The question nobody's answered yet is right for who?